Cool. So hey everybody, I'm here today with Tim. Tim runs support at Saleae, and we're just gonna have a casual conversation about how support works at Saleae. Many of you have probably written into support, in which case you have probably interacted with Tim or with Mark or one of the other people on the support team. But yeah, Tim, you want to say a few things about yourself and maybe kind of tell us a little bit how support works.
Yeah, sure. So I guess a little bit about myself first to get started. Graduated in Virginia Tech studying EE back in 2012. Worked for Texas Instruments right out of college as an applications engineer. I went through their engineering rotation program where they bring in new college grads and sort of train them to become salespeople, train them to become engineers, train them to become FAEs, and during the program, they kind of figure out where you'd fit in the best, and they decided to slot me into an apps engineering role, and I did that for about 5 years or so, jumping around between doing firmware stuff for ARM Cortex M3 devices. I jumped over into power electronic stuff, doing reference designs for different like 5 volts to 36 volts input. Power converters, DC input converters. So I did that for a bit. Somewhere along the line, I jumped over to a marketing role, traveling over to different countries that where we had sort of big customers for TI. Didn't really like that so much, but I kind of wanted to jump into more product design stuff rather than working on semiconductor stuff. So I looked back at my time at one of my teams at TI when I was doing firmware stuff, and a bunch of us were using Saleae devices. So I was like, hey, this is, like everyone's using it around the office. It was sort of like a word of mouth thing where, oh, one person's using this device and they tell someone else about it. And next thing you know, 10 people at the office are using it. And now I need one. So that's kind of the first time I learned about Saleae, and I joined the team in 2017 as a hardware engineer and tech support agent or head of support. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing the last 5 years or so, since from 2017 up to today.
Awesome. Cool. So just really quick, I wanted to ask you about that experience. So you said you did reference design. So does that mean like a kind of like an application note, or like a dev kit kind of a thing?
Exactly. So for example, one of the ones I worked on was a specific design from, let's say, I don't remember the voltage input and output, but we would have customers that would reach out to us and say, hey, we need a 30 volt input, 5 volt output, DC to DC converter. We need this kind of efficiency and this amount of output current, this amount of input current. So they send us the specs, and we make a reference design. We produce the schematics. We write up sort of an application note around it, and then we publish that on the website for that particular IC. So I did that for a few DC to DC converters, and I did that for a couple other power devices or power ICs, like power sequencers. Those are the two that I remember the most. I don't remember the third one that I did, but that's kind of the premise around it. Is customers would reach out with their requirements, and we'll design it and we'll publish it on the web, because it's pretty much free. Free design material for any customer that wants to view it, really.
Is that normally how most these kind of app notes get created? Is because a big important customer asks about it, or is it more? So that's very interesting. I never really thought about it that way. I kind of thought these were just somebody thought it'd be a good, interesting concept. No, it's very specific reasons.
Yeah, it's very specific, and actually, it's sort of like it starts off from a customer reaching out to us, saying they need a certain requirement. It's a pretty big customer too, right? Yeah. And what we do is the question then becomes, can we publish it online? Because it doesn't reveal any sort of like particular design that the end customer is doing. And if it doesn't reveal anything, hey, let's just publish it online. It's free material. So a lot of, I'd say, I can only speak from TI's side, but a lot of the reference designs that you see online originates from a sort of a customer request. So these designs you see online aren't really thrown together just kind of haphazardly. It's usually specifically tailored to some specific requirement. So
With the idea that they might use that exact setup for their, and they kind of cut and paste it almost into their design.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it sort of it sort of makes sense to do that too, for especially for ICs that have not yet released to market. If there's no reference designs around it, it's pretty hard for engineers, I guess, to kind of come up with it just from the data sheet alone. It's usually nice to have sort of like any kind of reference design on the side, even if it's not related to what you're doing. So that's kind of like I think that was a big selling point from TI's point. A big selling point of TI was that I think they produced a lot more reference design material than other semiconductor companies. At least when I was part of the team, that was sort of my feeling, was a big focus of TI. So
it seems like maybe part of the sales deal was like, well, if we win your business, we'll do a reference design for that part. Is that or is it more like they already selected the part, but because they're a big customer, we're going to help you out with that? Or was it more kind of like a package deal?
Actually, the reference design comes even before they decide to pick our part.
Gotcha.
So the reference design is part of the selling. Yeah, the reference design is actually part of the selling point. So a lot of times that our competitors are, when I was with TI, our competitors would pitch a sort of price, right? It would be like, oh, they'd lowball the price, and the TI selling point was, we have all this material ready for you, so the ease of designing in our part, there's a lot less friction involved, and that's sort of a big selling point behind that.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay, so let's talk about support. So let's say I'm a customer. What do you recommend is the best way to get help? I guess it depends on what it would be, but what's kind of a typical question, or what are some of the questions that are pretty common?
Oh yeah, a common question is, my device is not working as intended.
Right.
Yeah, I think a customer who's first opening our product might have certain first ideas about how something might work, especially because our product is not the typical oscilloscope, it's not the typical logic analyzer that you find on a desk bench. We're pretty unique in that everything is software based and everything is PC based, outside of besides having it an enclosed unit. So a typical question is something like, I connect the device and I'm not sure where to go from here. Do I open the software? Is this software supposed to open up automatically? Where do I go from there, right? That's sort of like the base level question.
And when somebody has that question, is that usually a chat question, or
it's usually a chat question. There's two channels where there's two ways where customers reach out to us mainly. One is through our website at Saleae.com. There's a little chat button on the bottom right, and a customer will write in with their question. That's usually the most common place where customers reach out to us, especially if a customer does not yet own our device, or is just opening our device and hasn't really installed the software yet. That's usually the first place where they'll reach out.
Gotcha. So this thing right here is the chat.
Yeah, there it is right there.
Cool. And so what percentage of people like use the chat versus use email?
Let's see. I would say it's about 50-50. The people who write in through email actually usually originates from either chat or from within the app. People who contact us through email, not as many of them use the contact form because it's not as easily as accessible as the chat button on the bottom right. People who contact us through email are usually returning people who have contacted us before on
Gotcha. So
support
there's already
through
some kind of
chat.
email
There's
chain.
already
Like,
some kind of email chain, and they'll just reply back with there's sort of like a follow-up question. So the typical support flow actually is I'll go through the chat support flow. A customer will ask a question in chat. One of our 3 chat reps that provide 24 hours a day, 5 days a week chat support on our website. One of them will usually pick up the question within a minute or so. And depending on the level of technicality of the question, or what depending on how complex of a question it might be, they may need to escalate it to one of our members, whether it be an engineer, whether it be an operations manager, whether it be an office manager. It'll start in chat, and if they ever need to escalate it, what they'll do is they'll create a support ticket that turns into an email support. So what's happened now is whatever conversation that was occurring within the chat has now turned into an email conversation. Now that it's contained in an email conversation, we talk back and forth with the customer. The customer might have a question about their device not working, or something in the software not working, whatever it might be. Once we determine that to be solved, we put that to the side. But later on, what usually happens is a customer is going to come back with another question, right? They're going to continue using the device. They might discover like a new feature. So they'll ask another question, and usually the way they'll ask it is they'll just reply. Yeah, they'll just reply to the same email chain. And once they reply, boom, that opens back up again. And we chat with them through email from there. So
at that point, does it get, let's say it was kind of bumped up to you or somebody, or to Mark or something, when they reply back into that same chain, does it kind of start at the beginning again? So to speak, like it goes to like level 1,
that's a good question. No, it actually goes to whoever they spoke to last. That's where it'll go to. So if it was escalated to me already, and I'm the one that closed the ticket, and they reply back, it's going to go directly to me. They actually bypass the entire. It is a bit of a cheat code. They can bypass the entire, chat support flow and escalation to me. And that's sort of intended by design, because if I've already spoken to them about something, I would expect, 9 times out of 10, the next question is going to be something that's more directed to me, more so than our first level chat team. So that's the premise.
It is a bit of a cheat code, but it does have a nicer relationship to it. If you kind of get the same person. So first of all, I guess what percentage of questions coming in through chat or email, end up going to you, or to Mark, or to somebody like that, versus can be answered right away by Joseph or the others?
Super rough numbers. I'd say about 60% our chat team can handle right away, and about 30% end up to, and this is actually just talking about tech support. Around 30 to 35% end up with me. And then the other 5% is something that I don't necessarily assign it to Mark, but I do end up managing those tickets, the rest of the tickets that I'm not able to solve, or I'm not able to technically advise on. Those are still under my management, but I do meet with Mark, and sometimes I pull in Neil, sometimes I pull in one of the software team members about once a week to kind of go over those tickets. So that's about 5% where I grab anyone else that might know, that might have the expertise to answer that question.
Cool. Yes, let me think here. Could you kind of show behind the scenes a little bit, like how does Zendesk work, or what do you do every day, like in terms of you go in there and check your, which tickets are open, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, sure. So in Zendesk, what I usually do is I log in and
share your screen.
Oh yeah, sure.
Give it a chance.
All right. You're gonna see my backlog of tech support items here as I'm returning from PTO, and coming into the July 4th weekend too.
Yeah.
Oh, share screen. Desktop one. All right.
Speaking of coming back from PTO, like or just or ignoring that, like what typical when somebody comes in with a question that goes to you, what kind of the typical delay before they get a response? Because
Oh,
like the normal team gets back almost right away, right?
almost instantly, yeah.
Um,
I usually respond within 1 business day, and that's usually less. On times during PTO, what typically happens is I assign tickets to Mark, and Mark creates a he creates a calendar invite for himself just as a reminder to go over every ticket that's under his bucket. And what I typically do on PTO is I go through any support tickets on my bucket, and I kind of just take a look to see if there's anything I can just handle right away instantly. So I just take care of those. But anything outside of that, I send that over to Mark, and Mark checks that daily. So that's kind of the process behind that.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. So I can walk you through behind the scenes of support. Here's
Yeah.
our on the left. You see my screen, right?
Yep.
So on the left side here, you can see a bunch of different main public support ticket buckets that we have. And this is a view that everyone on our support team can see. And our support team mainly consists of me, Jonathan Giorgino, who also helps me out sort of on my level of escalation. He sort of works alongside with me. We have Mark, who usually helps me with any higher level technical stuff that he's sort of an expert in. I've got a section here for Neil. Neil is our product manager. He typically I put tickets in his bucket, not necessarily tickets that he manages, but I put tickets in his bucket as a reminder for myself to talk about it with Neil. We get a lot of customers who give us feedback on the software, things like, hey, this button should be here, or hey, this part of the software doesn't work, or this weird bug is happening in the software, and I don't exactly know what's going on. What I usually do with those is I triage them before putting them in Neil's bucket and talking about it with Neil. I typically just make sure what the request is. I typically make sure their feedback is valid in a way. If
Right,
I can
exactly. Like they haven't
bug,
they're actually not overlooking some other thing
yeah,
that
yeah,
solve their problem. But yeah,
exactly, yeah. So that's sort of the filter behind that. And then we have Alfred, who handles sales support, admin stuff. And we have our three chat members, Joseph, Janelle, and Daniel. So these views here. So the way this works is whenever a customer writes in to our contact us form on our support site. Oh, I'm sorry. This is actually.
Are you logged in? Is that why?
Yeah. There's this weird thing internally where if you're logged in and you try to contact yourself, there's this weird thing where it logs into Zendesk. So I'm gonna pretend I'm not a Saleae support rep. This is the contact form you'll see, and I think Joe pulled this up recently as well. When you send a ticket through here, this lands in unassigned.
Gotcha.
And what our first level chat team also manages here, Joseph, Janelle, and Daniel. They all have clean ticket inboxes right now. They typically go into the unassigned section, and they either handle it themselves. They respond back to the customer if they know the answer, and if they don't, they'll assign it to either me, Alfred, or Gaurav, depending on the type of ticket it is. If it's a sales kind of admin ticket, they send it over to Alfred. If it's a PO or sort of like a purchasing question or anything related to purchasing, it's sent over to Gaurav. And anything else, whether it be technical, whether it be something weird, something that's not of the above two, they send that over to me. So you can find these three buckets here, and anything they can answer themselves, they'll usually assign it to themselves, and they'll answer tickets there, and they'll converse with the customer back and forth through that ticket.
Gotcha.
So that's a support flow from coming from the Saleae support website.
Huh?
Um, a little bit kind of peeling the onion back a little bit further.
Yeah.
So things that are assigned to me, I've got this section here called Tim's open tickets. Now this usually is fairly uh, fairly large. This is actually the bucket where uh, Joseph, Janelle, and Daniel assign tickets to when they need to escalate something.
Yep.
This is sort of like level 2 right here, Tim's open tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And what occurs here is I have help from Jonathan Giorgino from Beanho. He actually goes through these tickets and he's able to take on tickets that he's able to answer. Whatever he can answer, he'll actually answer them right on the spot. And anything he doesn't quite know the answer to or needs my help with, he'll send over to Tim's marked up. He marks it up a certain way, saying, "Hey Tim, this is this one's a weird bug here," or it might be like a warranty request where a device is not really working and he needs my input on it. And that lands into Tim's marked up.
So there's some kind of internal field where you can kind of have like notes that aren't CC'd to the customer.
Exactly.
Like,
I can show you behind the scenes. So here, for example, someone needs help compiling a custom analyzer. That's actually not an analyzer that we developed, but this is something I help with as well. And what you'll typically see here is a little marked up tag, and that's what Jonathan does. He'll put a marked up tag, and that's my way of knowing that, okay, everything here is marked up, and that's all stuff that I review. And
okay.
this has now landed in my bucket now. So you can kind of see from top to bottom, it sort of flows up from top to down. Unassigned tickets over to Joseph, Janelle, Daniel. That goes over to Alfred, Goarv, and Tim. And then from Tim onwards, it kind of that's sort of my level of ticket handling, where I start kind of assigning things here and there. But everything under Tim is still under my management.
Gotcha. And then what's suspended tickets and deleted tickets?
Oh, so suspended tickets are tickets that are typically marked as spam. Popular toothpaste causing gum infections.
Got it. Okay.
You have like these weird automated response of Amazon business things. So that's suspended tickets. And deleted tickets are stuff that either me or one of our team members usually delete. So these are things like voicemails. If we get actually the way phone calls work, we actually don't take immediate phone calls on the through support. The way phone calls work is it goes into an automated system that has you place a voicemail with us, and every voicemail that comes in that gets generated instantly comes into support as a support ticket. Instantly, and that falls into unassigned tickets. So I see this when it comes in. I'm able to read it. I'm able to listen to it, and I call back when a customer or anyone needs help.
Got it.
And then once I'm done with it, I delete it. So that's how this kind of piles up here.
Oh, it's because there's no actual chain on those. So
yeah.
You don't need an archive of it. Right?
Exactly. And the reason why I delete it is because the email address associated with it is like an automated email. And there's this weird thing. If you set it to a solved ticket, we send back a feedback, like an automated feedback request. For every support ticket, we send the user a feedback survey. Asking stuff like, how fast did we respond? How well did we cater to your question? And anytime we get sort of an email from an automated system, we just try and delete it, because we don't want this weird thing where we send it a survey email and then it emails us back saying, oh yeah, this is an automated email, we can't take emails. And it's weird, like robots are kind of talking to each other. So we just I
guess it also kind of messes up your stats a little bit, because it's sort of like cool.
Yeah, it takes time away from them.
Cool. Interesting.
I do want to mention another thing here too, actually. A lot of what we've been talking about has been how do customers contact us from the chat bubble, and how do customers contact us from by email. But another way another big way customers contact us is from within the app. And I'd like to show how that
please.
gets in here actually. Let me open up the app here. I may be outdated. I've been out. I might need to update this. We'll see.
Yeah, I know.
All right, I think I'm updated. Let's see. So customers using the software, and they might have a question. You'll notice this little feedback or support icon down here. So if they click that, there's a button here that says contact support. If you click into that, you have a couple of different prompts here to see if this is a feature request or a bug. You've got a little box here to write some feedback, and you write your email here. So what happens is when a customer writes in using this little prompt from within the app, this automatically turns into a ticket not under unassigned. I've got this little automation thing going on in here where it actually assigns it under Neil's open tickets. So this bypasses the need for the first level support team to have to see it in unassigned tickets and assign it to whoever.
Can you go back to really quick?
Oh, where?
To the app.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so so sorry. Is that for any feature requests or bugs or anything? Which one goes to Neil? All of them?
All of them. All of them goes to Neil.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So bug and feature requests, and the reason why we do that is because most times when a bug request, a bug report or a feature request comes in, most times as long as I triage it and I ensure that it sort of makes sense and I'm able to reproduce it, or I believe I also agree with their feature requests and think it's worthwhile discussing. Most times anything that comes through here is something that I want to discuss with Neil, who's our product manager. So that'll land into here. And what I do with this bucket is I talk with the customer first before bringing it up with Neil, or I just make sure what they're discussing is valid. A lot of times when you click on something like this, let's open up a bug report actually fairly recently. So we get. By
the way, I'll go in after this. Normally I want to have like zero editing on these because otherwise like I won't do it. But for this, I'll go in and edit the various like email addresses and such.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. There's a lot of like
personal information.
Personal information here. Yeah, that would be great. So here's an example here where some customer says waveform and hex values are different. At first glance, I might be able to guess. Yeah, I might be able to guess what they're talking about. I'll run the app and just try to test out a like a spy analyzer simulation run. Play around with it a little bit. But what I'm assuming is I won't be able to reproduce this, so I'll have to talk back and forth with the customer to see. Get more clarity on what's going on. Maybe if they have some more information. Yeah. So once I do that, once we've got sort of a conversation flow going and I've grabbed all the information I need, what I do is I mark that ticket as groomed. And once I mark that as groomed, it lands into this bucket here. And this bucket are all the things I do talk about with Neil. Got it. And also Mark when he's available. But that's a support flow behind what happens behind the scenes here, and how that reaches over to our product manager, Neil. Cool.
And then we also have the ideas.saleae.com, but that's not currently linked from the app. Is that correct? I remember mentioning this to Neil recently, but I don't know if it's in there yet.
No, I don't remember.
Maybe in the main menu.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's linked from the app here. Our forum is linked, but not the ideas page. Right. I do remember. I do remember having that here in the past, though, if I recall correctly.
What's the main menu down there on the bottom right? The hamburger menu. No, the main one. Yeah, that guy. There's nothing in here, right?
I don't think so. If it was in here, then I'd say it's in the incorrect place.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So yeah, the product thing. So you talked to Neil about and sort of advocate for the customer, right? Like, how does that? What's the flow for that? Like, is that once a week, once every 2 weeks? How does that work?
That's once a week. Yeah. So once a week, I'll probably have a handful of feedback here for them. So we'll be normally. It's a pretty simple meeting. we basically just start from the top. We open up the ticket, and I kind of just give them a quick summary about what I've been talking about with the customer, and then from there we kind of talk about what's the best way to solve their issue. Do we want to solve it? How many customers are potentially experiencing this issue, and what kind of impact would it have, for example, on the idea site, if several other customers have requested the same feature or not? What kind of impact does it have there if other customers have requested this feature too? So it's more of like, what is the issue? How many customers are going to benefit from it? And should we get this on the backlog ASAP, or should we get it on the backlog to solve later? That's sort of the
right. Well, there's
the main
also
thing.
like how easy it could be
Yeah,
solved, right? Like, so
exactly.
like whether it needs to go to the main software team, or whether Neil and, can do it himself, or whatever.
Yeah, that happens too. Yeah. So it's typically me, Neil, and Mark. Actually, it's the three of us, and Mark is there as well to kind of figure out how long this might take. Yeah, how long this might take, or if it's something that Neil's contractors can work on as well. Yeah, that's part of it.
Did you do you see much? Well, I'll talk to Neil later about this, but like, do you see much behind the scenes as to like the priority queue for sort of, so to speak, easy changes that like, and you kind of see where those, how quickly those get done, and like in what order? Do you have any insight there?
No, not too much, in the sense of like what's priority or what's not. What I typically do is I meet with Neil separately, one-on-one, every other Tuesday. And during that meeting with Neil, he walks me through what he has next in the pipeline, just to kind of give me an idea of who's working on what and what kind of support requests are being prioritized. But if I were to if I were to recall exactly what's a priority right now, I wouldn't be able to do that unless I meet with Neil that during that biweekly meeting. So I don't have I don't have a solid understanding of, at least for right now, what's at the top of the pipeline and what's easiest until I do meet with Neil.
Do you know how to pull up the release notes for the software? Like, I think there's like a web page that has all of them.
Yeah, I can go grab that. Is that the it's hosted by our discuss page, but are you talking about this one right here? Ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I imagine what's in here is mostly the things that you advocate to Neil that managed to get to the top of the queue.
Yeah, most of the time it's what I notice here is what comes from the app. A lot of times too, what I see here is what we have a sort of separate discussion within Slack between the software team and Neil, and a lot of times the software team catches stuff that's kind of weird, or like a bug. So that also gets here too. So I don't know what percentage of
well, I'll talk to Neil about that.
Is,
like, there's a lot of good stuff gets captured from both sides.
Yeah, and it's two different channels, which can get kind of messy, but Neil does catch all of them. Yeah.
He gets it into the backlog right away.
He does. Yeah.
Honestly, what happens after that? So
yeah, which is cool actually. The funnel ends up being the Jira backlog. Whether it's actually, I'm kind of jumping around here, but as topics come up, so this is kind of cool here. Let's see if this is stuff I haven't talked to Neil yet. But if you see on the bottom here, there's this Jira box. Oops, there's this Jira box here. I don't know how to pull up an older. I'll have to go find something, but I don't want to do that right now.
You have a ticket that's linked to the Jira ticket.
Yeah. So Neil actually links the ticket right here. So any other support tickets that are similar to a Jira backlog, that all gets linked behind the scenes in Jira. So the cool thing is when Neil and the software team ends up implementing a software feature that was requested by someone from the support team, or from someone that comes in from support. That should usually be linked to a Jira ticket. This is not linked yet because I haven't discussed this with Neil.
Sure.
I haven't had a chance with Neil, but that should be linked to a Jira ticket. And what happens behind the scenes is when that Jira ticket gets solved, meaning it's been implemented into the next version of the app, or what we're about to release, this ticket actually reopens automatically, and I'm able to reach out to. I actually reach out to every customer that has a linked Jira ticket. Hey, this is solved. And I usually, obviously, we get a huge positive response 99% of the time. I say 99 because nothing's ever 100%, but
Sure.
a
That's
lot
awesome.
of times, hey, man, this is awesome. So that's kind of a cool thing that goes on behind the scenes between Neil, the software team, and kind of how that chains back to a customer request, right?
Awesome. See the products person. Yeah, I wanted to ask about the feedback part of this. Like, so you mentioned you send out a survey email for every ticket, and then there's also ones for the chat. How does that all work?
Yeah, so the chat feedback is a little bit more of a manual process. The way the chat feedback works is any chat that whenever our customer support rep logs into our chat platform is called Drift. Whenever they first log in for their 8-hour shift, the first thing they do is to go back to all of the chats they had the previous day, and copy and paste a message for every single one saying, hey, we'd love to hear your feedback. Here's our survey link to the feedback. It's a curated message. They'll copy and paste that message for every chat, and that usually takes like a few minutes or so. And that's what they do at the start of the day. Usually when a customer
for that, like
yeah, so usually when a customer chats with us, our chat box requests them for their email. So this survey request ends up landing in their email inbox, because 99 times out of 100, they're not going to be on the website while our chat team sends that chat message. So that's going to end up in their email. And when they open up that email, they can click into the link. And the chat transcript is actually right underneath that survey link or that survey message. So when they do get that email, they're able to look back at the chat and kind of remember what they talked about. Although, one day ago is not too long ago, but it's good to remember what was actually discussed in the chat. So that's how that works, and that's only if you oh, what's that?
I was gonna say, where's the survey? Is that the I can't remember the name of the service, Typeform survey?
Yeah, that's hosted in Typeform.
Cool. Can we actually see what that survey looks like?
Oh yeah, sure.
Or maybe the ones that the email goes to.
Yeah, let's log into Typeform real quick here. Support. Head over to chat feedback. Thanks. Let's do a quick preview. Desktop. So this is the chat feedback form that they get once they click into the link. You hit start, put in your email address, and you get a question about response time. How good was the response time on chat? 1 being poor, 5 being great. Hit OK. Did you get a clear and accurate information? 1 being poor, 5 being great. Was it friendly communication? 1 being poor, 5 being great. It's pretty quick. You put a simple comment here, and if you have any other comments, hit submit, and that's kind of how quick it is. I try not to make it too long. Because the bad thing about Typeform is if you complete the survey halfway through and you close it, you don't get all the responses. So it's like kind of a balance of like, you do want to get as much information as you can, but at the same time you want them to finish it. So it's sort of a shortcoming with Typeform, but that's how that chat feedback works, and it's actually the same. It looks very similar when you take a look at the email survey box.
Right, exactly. And then how do you where does that go then? How do you aggregate that into some kind of the report that you send out? Oh
yeah, sure. So over here, what I typically do, I'm actually late on this. I plan to send this out shortly, but I typically every 3 weeks or so, I go into responses for the particular survey that I'm interested in, and I hit download responses. So actually, let's go ahead and click into that.
For all the responses
Yeah, this is actually gonna be every response since we started this this chat service. That it's not too big of a file, so I just go ahead and do it.
Exactly.
I could just filter down to the date, but
yep.
That doesn't take too much time anyway. So open this Excel sheet here, and what I normally do is I read through every single one of these. It's a little hard to read right now. What I normally do is I grab up to a certain date where I know was my stopping point during my last report. I grab all of this and I copy and paste that in sort of like a better reading format, so I can easily kind of look into it and take notes. I have this little template file here. This is just for my personal viewing. I normally don't send this out to the team, but I grab those items there. Let's see, what do I have? Yep. Word is doing something. Paste that in here. And this just gives me an easy way to just add some notes here on the side as I'm sifting through them. So I do read through every single one. If a speed or clarity is rated as 3, but I don't get any comments, I'll go into the chat by grabbing their email, looking at their chat and just seeing what happened there. If there's some kind of like comment here, I take a look if it's positive comment or if it's negative comment. And any negative comment, I really I'm always looking for negative comments to respond to. And I'll say any negative comment you want to write in, please write it in, because you'll get a response from me. I don't leave behind any negative comments. You'll always get responded to. What I normally don't really like is when something like a clarity of 3 is given, but there's no comments for me to work with.
Right. Now you can go back and look at the chat and make an opinion. But then if it's not clear, or you can still like will reach out and ask how can we make it better, or
exactly, yeah. So if I'll have to go back to the chat and see if it's worth responding to, or if I want to reach out, or if it's something that's worthwhile, right? But usually if there's a negative comment right away, I'll respond right away. I usually won't even. I'll have the ticket to the side, but I'm already writing up the email, right? So that's how that works. And this is a lot of info. This is actually just up to a few tickets here, but usually this goes on and on and on for like two pages or so, and that's just chat. Usually email is more than this. But what I do to report it to the team is I don't just send this report out as so. It's sort of like super wordy. There's a lot going on here. I usually condense it into a more readable format. And this is the format I've sort of gone with, where I just take all the constructive feedback that I find, something that potentially is actionable by either one of our team members, our support team, our software team, or anyone in the company, really. This kind of feedback applies to anyone on the company. So I usually send this out as split up between constructive feedback, and also we got to throw in the positive feedback in there to kind of like.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is the stuff that makes us smile. Like, seriously, working with a customer who reported a bug, sending that over to Neil to kind of triage it with Neil and Mark to figure out what we want to do with it, having the software team fix it, reaching back out to the customer, and then having the customer saying thank you. That's like kind of like one of the best feelings, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's like I really love. Of course, any positive feedback is great, but when all of our hands are in something that makes the product better and makes the customer happy, and then it ends up being here, it's like it's really cool to see.
Yeah, another thing that Tim does is post like just positive, cool stuff, and also bad stuff on the community channel on Slack, right? And
yeah,
and that's always like that always sparks conversations.
this came from actually this came from an email. This didn't come from the feedback survey, but
Yeah.
this was a fairly complicated one that it was me, Mark, and Jonathan for a bit. I don't remember what it was we were solving, but I remember this whole Bloody Legends thing. This
Yeah.
comment. I remember which ticket that was, and that took a lot of time. So that was cool. Yeah, so this is just an internal channel where we post a bunch of community stuff that's been going on. Jonathan went over to Embedded World, saw some of our distributors, got some comments here. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Let's see. Yeah, I think that kind of that's kind of the whole loop, right? So we got the feedback part, and I guess the one thing we didn't talk about is the support side itself, and you're kind of how you run that, how you keep it up to date, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, sure. So what I normally do is I guess there's a couple parts to 1, 2, 3. I think there's three main things in my head that I kind of like to tidy up and keep clean. Sort of like support and maintenance work. Number one is our support site. And this is all managed behind the scenes through a service called Gitbook. So the way I normally find out what I want to work on next is what are the most common issues I see in support, and do I want to write a support article on it? And most of the time it's yes, I'm going to write a support article on it. And usually the goal is when a customer writes in with a certain issue, let's hit the troubleshooting button, for example, and scroll all the way down, and like for example, this issue here, capture stopped because backlog data exceeded 90%. This error message already existed in the software. I'm not really sure how long, but we didn't have a support article for this for some time until a customer reaches out to us asking, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
What the heck is this error message? Ideally, we write this support article at the time of writing
Right.
the error message.
The error message,
ideally, I wish we were that fast. What we're working with right now is if a customer does report an error message that even I'm familiar with, actually, they'll write in and I'll look at this. I don't think I've ever seen this before.
Right.
This is sort of what happened. This is the kind of stuff that I escalate over to Mark actually during our weekly one-on-ones. Hey, Mark, he's got this error message here. Can you explain to me in layman terms what this error message means? And once we kind of go over it and I kind of get what's going on there, that's when I'll write up the support article and I kind of get what's going on. I'll write up workarounds. I write up my understanding of what the error message means. I'll send that over to Mark for review. He'll give me a thumbs up and I'll post that up here. So most of my time on the support page is spent in this troubleshooting section here. From creating new articles such as this, error loading marketplace, error capture stopped, all of this stuff, to ones where I see that we send out often but can be cleaned up. Things like at the top here, installation errors. This is a fairly common one, and I run into different and new situations in support, and I'll always make sure that if there's something new that I catch, I'll throw that into here. So this kind of ends up getting new addendums, I guess, as whenever I find out more and more issues. So most of my time is spent here in troubleshooting. The rest of the time, I'll update things as I see if needed. For example, the protocol analyzer section, Mark he redid the entire build process for the way we want to build analyzers. We moved away from Visual Studio and moved over to CMake. So that required support article updates as well. So I had to do sort of like a whole reorganization of how our analyzer SDK support article was laid out. So this is our analyzer SDK support article now. This was laid out completely differently, but as sort of updates get made, Mark will let me know, or Neil will let me know during our one-on-ones, and I'll get that on the backlog to work on.
Awesome.
Uh,
One quick idea I just had with that, those error messages. I'm sure there's a way that maybe you guys have already talked about this, but the team could use some sort of regex expression of some kind to like dump out all the error messages in the entire app, right? And then at that point, you could be like, do these even make any sense?
yeah.
Right. You could also then like see which ones have support articles, and then you could also then take the links to the support articles and put them back into the error messages. So the error messages actually have like a get more help button kind of thing on them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can imagine having a way to automate that. So it's a little bit not super manual, but just kind of, if you add an error message, the whole thing has to be done properly for it even to be added, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Exactly. We kind of thought of a main error page, error message landing page for all of our errors. I don't know if I have that support article anymore. I probably just scrapped that idea. But what the original idea
like
had
a pound sign thing. You can actually try to go. If it did exist, you go right there.
Yeah, exactly. That was sort of the idea. A little bit more simplified version of that was to just create one support article with a table of all the common errors. So when a or not all the common errors, of all the errors, just any error that the software can put out, and it would have a link to that particular support article. But if it didn't, if we didn't have a support article for it, it would just go to the contact us page, so that like you could reach out to us, but or do some
be a really quick way for you to audit like which ones are we missing and do we care or not, depending on what it was. So
yeah.
Nice. It's a good idea.
All right, so that's the support side of things. I forgot the original question. Actually, I was going on about the support site. I think
I was just asking about the support
something
site,
else in mind.
Keeping it up to date. Oh yeah, you mentioned there was like 3 things you like to try to keep.
There was 3. Oh right, yeah. So that's a support site, and another thing is there are currently two types of contractors that I manage right now, which I actually talked about earlier. 3 of our chat support reps, and our other rep, which is sort of a sales and admin rep, and that sort of completes the entire level 1 support experience, right? Another thing I keep up to date really often is our their process documentation, which I can actually show that here. Nothing is secret over here, because we and anything that's written down here, we actually just we discuss with all of our customers, really, at the end of the day. So at the top level here, you can see that this is the process document that the 3 chat reps take a look at, and I update this almost every other day. There's just so many different customer situations that occur. I thought that this document would be done long ago, but this is just a living document at the end of the day, and I've just kind of lived with that. So at the top section here, you can see sort of like how we assign tickets. We assign to Alfred, our sales rep, if X, Y, and Z occur. We assign to Gaurav with high priority for certain situations. We include links here to make it a little bit easier to show maybe some example situations, show an example ticket, show an example ticket. Nice. So that's how this is laid out here. This is the assigning ticket section, and then assign to Tim when it's anything else, really. I just like to put a whole list here, just kind of to standardize it, but anything else, assign it over to me with examples.
Suspicious looking government notices.
You just saw that here too.
Awesome.
I put some random stuff here just because like sometimes they do run into some weird stuff that we've never run into before, and it's sort of like, what do we do with this, right? I'd like to just still call that out if I can. Yes, send that over to me. Here's some guidelines, actually, right? If you see a suspicious looking discount request, hey, let's review it. I don't want to reveal what our guidelines are.
I know.
But we'd have to blur that out. But yeah, they've got some guidelines here to work with in case they can handle it themselves. We got a bunch of chat team processes. I'm not gonna go over this a lot, but you can see it's got
that's awesome.
All this stuff here. Then it's growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, and FAQ, and Yeah. Dropbox is great because of Control F.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
like something about an order, right?
Mhm.
You can kind of go through here, or like maybe when will my order ship? That's a common one.
Mhm.
So that leads to that. So long document, Control F is your best friend.
That's
And the
awesome.
third document is something like this. I don't think I need to show it, but it's a similar document like this, but it's for our sales support rep. So
Gotcha. Yeah,
that's kind of the maintenance work behind the scenes that I take care of.
that's awesome. Um, I think those three things, like, plus the advocacy for the customer, like the keeping this up to date and like caring about it, like is why we love Tim so much. Like just, yeah, just on top of it. Uh, so thanks, Tim. Much
Hey,
appreciated.
yeah, sure thing.
Yeah, I think thanks for the tour. It was really cool even for
Oh
me
no,
to
that was fun.
like get up to speed on
That was
a lot of
fun.
those things I forgot. So
Actually, without having this sort of like YouTube plan or anything, I don't think I've ever really gone over that with you. I've talked about it here and there
yeah,
where
exactly, but not in a comprehensive way, right?
yeah, like something comes up, but I've never really talked about it in a way where it's like, hey, you're a new CEO, like what
Like
do I
here's
do in the company, right?
exactly.
It's been a long time since I was probably I work remote, by the way, from Austin, Texas, for anyone that doesn't know. But yeah, ever since I was at the office, I don't think I've ever really gone over that. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? And increasingly doing that with everybody here, and yeah, I mean, it'd be really cool, like even if like, hey, like somebody might want to join the support team, like how does support work, and like why are we proud of it, that kind of stuff, right? It's like we
Yeah,
have this
exactly.
we have this resource to point them to, right? And same
Yeah.
thing if you're joining the software team or whatever, right? It's like here's how our code works and like kind of the things we think about. So um, I think it's going to be good.
Yep.
All right, Tim. Well, I'll let you go. Much appreciated. Enjoy the 4th of July weekend.
Oh yeah, you as well.
Okay, cool. All right, take care, Tim.
All
We'll
right,
talk soon.
bye.
Bye.